Daughter demands that I pay for her lavish dream wedding from my own pocket, but when I denied, she told me to forget getting an invite because she was choosing her mom and stepdad who were willing to pay for her wedding instead. But on the morning of the wedding I get a frantic call from her, trying to give me a last-minute invite. Because no one showed up at her wedding including her mom and stepdad because they were trying to teach her a very important lesson. I never thought I'd end up in this situation, but here I am tossing and turning for 2 nights straight, questioning whether I did the right thing. I need an outside perspective. So here we go. For context, I'm a 48-year-old man and my daughter Anna is 24. To say our relationship has been rocky over the years would be putting it mildly, but I always loved her and tried to be the best father I could. When Anna was 8 years old, my marriage to her mom fell apart. We had grown distant for years, and no matter how much we tried to make it work, we realized we were better off apart. It wasn't an ugly divorce, but it hit Anna hard. Her mother quickly remarried a man named Greg who had money, a lot of money. He owned a successful business and their lifestyle changed almost overnight. Suddenly, Anna had everything she could ever want: designer clothes, luxury trips, the newest gadgets. Greg treated Anna like a princess, which I was grateful for at first. I thought it was good that she was being cared for so well. But over time, I noticed how it started to change her. She became obsessed with appearances and status. She would brag to me about Greg buying her the latest phone or a $500 purse, and if I couldn't compete, she would look down on me. I couldn't afford the same luxuries as Greg, and that made me the poor parent in her eyes. As the years passed, Greg and my ex-wife indulged her every whim, and I could see Anna's sense of entitlement growing. She started pitting us against each other too. If I said no to something, she would run to her mom or Greg, who would immediately give in. I was the parent who enforced rules and boundaries, and they were the ones who let her do whatever she wanted. It created a wedge between us. I tried talking to her about values, hard work, and gratitude, but it never got through. She saw life as something to take, not something to earn. Fast forward to a couple of months ago, Anna called me with the news that she was engaged. I was genuinely happy for her. Despite our differences, I wanted her to have a beautiful life. She sounded excited and told me all about her dream wedding plans. I listened and congratulated her, thinking this might be a moment where we could bond again. But then, a week later, she came to visit me with a folder in hand. She sat me down and presented a full breakdown of her wedding costs. I won't lie, I was shocked. The total budget was over $100,000. There was an exotic venue, a design address that cost $10,000, professional decorators, catering for over 200 guests, and more. She didn't ask me for help. She told me I needed to pay for it. I was stunned. I told her calmly that I couldn't afford to pay for something so extravagant. I explained that I had savings, but that money was for my retirement and emergency needs. I also offered to contribute a small amount, something I could reasonably manage, but it wasn't enough for her. Anna rolled her eyes and told me it was my fatherly duty to pay for her dream wedding. When I said no, she got angry. She accused me of not loving her enough, of being selfish, and of trying to ruin the most important day of her life. 3 days later, I got a call from her. She told me I was no longer invited to the wedding. She said Greg and her mom were going to pay for everything instead because that's what real family does. I hung up the phone and just sat there in silence. It hurt more than I cared to admit. I've always loved Anna, but it felt like no matter what I did, it was never enough for her. I decided to let it go. If this was how she wanted things to be, I couldn't stop her. The months leading up to the wedding were quiet. I didn't hear from Anna at all, and I kept to myself trying to push the whole situation out of my mind. But then, on the morning of the wedding, I woke up to my phone ringing nonstop. I picked it up to find Anna on the other end crying hysterically. I could barely understand what she was saying, but she was begging me to come to the wedding. I asked her what had happened and she finally choked out the words, "No one was there." Apparently her mom and Greg had pulled out at the last minute. Not only did they refuse to pay for the wedding, but they also never sent out the invitations. Anna had spent weeks assuming everything was being taken care of. But when the big day came, the venue was empty. There were no guests. Her mom and Greg never showed up either. They had told her they were trying to teach her a lesson. I later learned that they wanted to show her that you can't manipulate people and take them for granted. They let her believe everything was fine until it all came crashing down. Anna begged me to come to the venue, to be there for her. She said she needed me and that I was the only person she could count on. I won't lie, part of me wanted to rush over there and comfort her. She's still my daughter, and hearing her so broken was heartbreaking. But I couldn't ignore everything that had led up to this moment. I told her I was sorry she was going through this, but I wouldn't be coming. I reminded her that actions have consequences and she couldn't treat people poorly and expect them to always be there for her. She sobbed and hung up the phone, and I haven't heard from her since. It's been 2 days since the wedding, and I've been losing sleep over it. I keep replaying everything in my head. I know Anna brought this on herself, but she's still my little girl. I keep wondering if I should have gone to her, if I should have been the bigger person. I don't know if I did the right thing by staying away, and the guilt is eating me up. So Ida for refusing to pay for her wedding and not showing up when she called me in tears? Update 1. Hi everyone. It's been about a week since my last post and I wanted to give an update because honestly I'm still wrapping my head around how things unfolded. First, thank you so much to everyone who commented, gave advice or shared their own experiences. I was feeling guilty and second-guessing myself, but you all helped me see that I did the right thing by standing my ground. I appreciate it more than you know. As you know, my daughter Anna had her wedding last week, which turned into a total disaster because no one showed up. Her mom and stepdad, Greg, who had promised her the moon and stars, backed out of everything, including inviting people and paying for the wedding. It left Anna with a beautiful but empty venue, unpaid bills, and a whole lot of embarrassment. When she called me the morning of the wedding, sobbing and begging for help, I didn't go. I thought that was the end of the drama, but I was so wrong. It didn't take long for the aftermath of the wedding to hit Anna and hard. She's been doing everything she can to spin the story, but things aren't going her way. Let me explain. Right after the wedding, Anna started posting on social media as if nothing had happened. She uploaded pictures of her in her wedding dress, shots of the venue, carefully framed so the emptiness wasn't obvious, and a long caption about how it was the perfect, small, intimate ceremony she always dreamed of. She talked about family drama and implied that certain people chose not to attend, which honestly ticked me off because I knew she was talking about me. I guess she thought her followers would buy the story, but that didn't last. Unfortunately for Anna, Anna had been hyping up this wedding for months. She had been posting non-stop about how it was going to be the event of the year. She went on and on about the expensive venue, designer dress, fancy catering, and how Greg and her mom were so generous to fund the whole thing. While all of that was fine, the issue was that none of her friends or extended family ever got invites. Now people are starting to piece things together, and they're not happy. A few of her friends commented asking why they weren't invited if it was such a small, intimate ceremony. One of them even said they felt excluded and hurt, and Anna tried to brush it off by claiming she didn't have time to send invites out. That backfired because people knew she'd had months to plan this wedding. Others noticed that no one besides Anna was in any of the pictures, which made the truth pretty obvious. People started asking questions, and the backlash began. The wedding hasn't just taken a toll on Anna's reputation, it's also completely wrecked her financially. I found out through mutual family members that Anna is drowning in debt because of the wedding, and they only knew about this debt because she's been desperately reaching out to anyone and everyone who will hear her out because she needs all the help that she can get. Since Greg and her mom promised to pay for everything and then backed out, Anna ended up putting almost everything on her credit cards. The venue alone cost tens of $1,000. And when no one showed up, she didn't even have gifts or contributions to help offset the costs. Anna apparently thought she could just figure it out later. She assumed her mom or Greg would step in and bail her out, but they're not doing it. In fact, when Anna asked them for help, Greg told her this was exactly why he pulled out in the first place, to teach her how to budget and not expect handouts. Her mom is backing Greg up. She's saying that Anna needs to learn some responsibility. I'm not excusing what Greg and her mom did, but it was cruel to pull the rug out from under her like that. But I can't deny that Anna's attitude played a huge part in how this all turned out. A few days after the wedding, Anna called me again. This time, she wasn't crying. She was angry. She said that if I had just paid for her wedding in the first place, none of this would have happened. She accused me of ruining her big day and said I was a terrible father for abandoning her when she needed me the most. She even tried to guilt-trip me, saying I clearly didn't love her as much as Greg and her mom did. I calmly told her that I wasn't the one who promised to pay for the wedding. I reminded her that she told me I wasn't invited and chose her mom and Greg over me because they were willing to fund her lifestyle. I also told her that I wasn't going to pay off her debts. I told her it was time to face the consequences of her choices and that I wouldn't be her safety net. Anna didn't like that answer. She told me I was being heartless and said I needed to step up as her parent. I told her to talk to Greg and her mom since they're the ones who led her to believe they pay for everything. She hung up on me after that, and I haven't heard from her since. As if the financial mess and social media backlash weren't enough, Anna's friends are starting to see her true colors, and it's not pretty. I found out from my niece, who used to be close to Anna, that Anna had been bad-mouthing me to her friends for weeks before the wedding. She told everyone that I refused to help her and that I was being cheap and selfish. Anna framed it like she was the victim, and I was the mean, absent parent who didn't care about her. But now that people know what really happened, they're turning on her. Her friends are realizing that she's been manipulative and entitled. One friend even confronted her about excluding them from the wedding after months of bragging about it. Instead of apologizing, Anna told them they were being nosy and overdramatic. That didn't go over well. And now some of her closest friends have stopped talking to her. My niece also told me that Anna has been complaining about how everyone is against her and how no one understands how hard her life is. Instead of taking responsibility for what happened, she's blaming everyone else. Me, her mom, Greg, her friends, and even the wedding vendors. It's always someone else's fault, never hers. I'm honestly at a loss. I thought this whole situation would be a wake-up call for Anna, but she still refuses to change. She's so caught up in her pride and entitlement that she can't see how her behavior led to this mess. I feel bad for her. I really do. But I'm not going to swoop in and save her. She needs to learn that actions have consequences and that you can't treat people like disposable ATMs at this point. I'm keeping my distance. I love my daughter, but until she's willing to take responsibility and change her attitude, there's not much I can do for her. I just hope that someday she realizes that the way she's been acting isn't sustainable. Thank you again to everyone who reached out and supported me. I'll update again if anything significant happens. But for now, I'm stepping back and letting Anna figure this out on her own. Take care, everyone. Update 2. It's been a couple of weeks since my last update, and I honestly didn't expect to be back with so much to share. First of all, thank you to everyone who commented on my last post and gave me advice. A lot of you suggested I should reach out to my ex-wife and let her know that what she did to Anna was unnecessarily cruel, even if the lesson itself was important. I decided to follow that advice. And let me tell you, I found out a whole lot more than I bargained for. After debating with myself for a few days, I gave my ex-wife a call. We didn't talk often anymore because we weren't co-parenting, so picking up the phone was a pretty big deal for me. When she answered, I didn't come in hot or accusatory. I just told her straight up that I thought the way she handled Anna's wedding was harsh. I mentioned that I understood Anna needed a reality check, but deliberately letting her spiral into debt and humiliation felt like taking things too far. What I didn't expect was for her to break down over the phone. She wasn't defensive or angry at first. She just sounded exhausted. She told me she never intended for things to go this far, but there was a lot I didn't know about her and Greg's situation. Turns out, Greg and my ex-wife are not doing well financially at all, which is the real reason they couldn't pay for Anna's wedding. They had promised Anna they'd cover the expenses because, as my ex-wife put it, they wanted to keep her happy and thought they could figure something out later. But reality hit them hard. Greg has been struggling to keep his business afloat, and my ex-wife lost her part-time job a while ago. I had no idea how bad things have gotten for them. My ex-wife said they've been using credit cards and loans just to keep up appearances, but they're drowning in debt. Apparently, they were counting on Greg's business turning around, but it's only gotten worse. What's even worse is that a lot of their financial issues trace back to Anna herself. From what my ex-wife told me, Anna has always been very demanding even as a teenager. She wanted the best clothes, the newest gadgets, fancy vacations. Greg and my ex-wife indulged her because they felt guilty about the divorce and wanted to keep her happy. But it never stopped. Even as an adult, Anna leaned on them for everything. Her rent, her bills, her lifestyle. Greg and my ex-wife never set boundaries with her because they were afraid she'd cut them out if they didn't give her what she wanted. My ex-wife said she's tired of it now but doesn't know how to stop enabling her. I was taken aback by how frustrated she sounded. She kept repeating how Anna turned out so ungrateful and entitled despite everything they did for her. She said, Anna has no idea how hard they've worked to keep her happy and how much they've sacrificed for her. At that point, I had to say something. I told her flat out that she and Greg were the reason Anna turned out the way she did. They never taught her how to stand on her own 2 feet and now she's paying the price for it. I reminded her that she's pushing me out of Anna's life for years and refused to let me parent her. Now she was trying to blame me for Anna's entitled attitude? I wasn't having it. Of course that didn't sit well with my ex-wife. She immediately shot back saying I wasn't around enough and that Anna probably wouldn't have turned out this way if I'd tried harder to be in her life. I stayed calm and told her that she made sure Anna saw me as the bad guy from day one. I wasn't going to take the blame for something that was entirely out of my hands. It was a tense conversation to say the least, but I left it at that. I wasn't going to let her off the hook. I've decided to step back and let them figure this out. I'm not getting involved anymore. I'm still not going to pay for Anna's debts, and I have no regrets about that. She's an adult, and it's time she started acting like one. I'm just glad I'm not caught up in the chaos anymore. I tried to warn her, but she didn't want to listen. I'll update again if anything changes, but for now, that's where things stand. Thanks again to everyone who's been following this saga. It's been a wild ride, and I'm curious to see how it all plays out from here. Update 3. Hey, everyone, it's been a couple of weeks since my last update, and I wish I had better news to share. Things have continued to spiral downhill for Anna, and at this point, I think she has hit rock bottom. A lot has happened, so I'll try to break it all down for you. First off, Anna's husband left her. I didn't mention him before because he wasn't a huge part of the story, but Anna had gotten married to a man she had been dating for a little over a year. He was there for the disaster wedding, but as soon as the financial stress really set in, he couldn't take it anymore. I heard that the unpaid bills were causing a lot of fights between them. Vendors like the venue, caterers, florists, all of them came knocking, demanding payment. Her husband apparently wanted to sit down and figure out a plan to pay off the debt, but Anna refused to take any accountability. Instead, she blamed everyone else, including him. Eventually, it got to be too much for him. He packed up his things and left, saying he couldn't live like this anymore. I'm not going to lie. That devastated Anna. From what I've been told, she didn't see it coming at all. She fully expected him to stick by her side, but I think she pushed him too far. After he left, she had nothing to her name. No job, no money, and now no place to live. Her friends had already distanced themselves after the wedding fiasco, and her husband walking out was the final straw. When I heard about what happened, I reached out to Anna. Despite everything that has happened, she's still my daughter, and I didn't want to see her homeless. I offered to let her stay with me until she got back on her feet. I was even willing to set boundaries and make sure we didn't fall into the same patterns of enabling her behavior. But Anna, well, she was Anna. When I made the offer, she was rude beyond belief. She told me I was a miserable old man and that she wouldn't take pity from someone who abandoned her. She said it was my fault her life was falling apart because I refused to pay for her wedding in the first place. I was honestly shocked at her attitude. I had reached out with nothing but kindness and an offer to help, and she still managed to lash out at me like I was the villain in all of this. That was the moment I decided I was done trying to help her. It's not that I don't love Anna. I do. But I can't help someone who refuses to take responsibility for her own actions. Until she truly understands the error of her ways and comes to me with a genuine apology, I'm not going to bend over backwards to fix her mess. It's clear that giving in to her demands is what got her into this position in the first place. After turning down my offer, Anna ended up moving in with her mom and Greg. And let me tell you, it didn't take long for things to go south there. I heard all of this from my ex-wife over text because apparently Anna has been making their lives miserable. She's constantly getting into fights with her mom and Greg because they aren't giving her what she wants. Anna still expects to be treated like a princess, but Greg and her mom have made it clear that they're not going to indulge her anymore. From what I gather, the fights are about money. Anna wants Greg and her mom to help her pay off the wedding debt, but they've put their foot down. Greg told her she brought this on herself and that it's not their responsibility to fix it. My ex-wife has also told me that Anna has been demanding nicer things while living with them. She apparently doesn't like the food they eat and keeps asking for expensive groceries and takeout. When Greg refused to pay for it, Anna exploded and accused them of being unfair and cruel. It's a never-ending cycle of fights and drama. My ex-wife sounded completely exhausted when she was texting me about all of this. She admitted that Anna was driving them crazy, but what shocked me most was her own lack of accountability. She told me that she and Greg regretted trying to teach Anna a lesson the way they did. She said they never expected Anna to react so poorly to the wedding fallout. I didn't say much in response to that. But in my mind, I couldn't help but think, what did they expect? They raised Anna to be entitled, spoiled, and completely dependent on others. The wedding disaster wasn't just some random event. It was the result of years of enabling her behavior. I told my ex-wife that while I felt bad for what she was going through, she had to take some responsibility for the way Anna turned out. She didn't like that. She snapped back and blamed me for everything, saying that if I had been more involved in Anna's life after the divorce, she wouldn't have turned out this way. I didn't bother arguing with her. At the end of the day, we all made our choices, and this is where those choices led. The icing on the cake was when Anna found out the real reason her mom and Greg couldn't pay for her wedding. My ex-wife ended up telling her the truth because, apparently she was scared I was going to tattle on her first. Anna did not take it well. She had a complete meltdown and screamed at her mom and Greg for lying to her. She accused them of ruining her life and told them that they had embarrassed her in front of everyone she knew. It didn't matter that she was the one who made the wedding so extravagant and expensive. In her eyes, it was all their fault. The part that really got me though is that somehow, Anna still managed to blame me for everything. My ex-wife told me that Anna ranted about how if I had just paid for the wedding like a good father should have, none of this would have happened. It's honestly baffling to me how she refuses to see her own role in this mess. At this point, I'm just done. I still love Anna, and I hope that one day she'll grow up and take accountability for her actions. But until that happens, I'm going to keep my distance. I've already tried to help her, and she threw it back in my face. If she wants to keep blaming everyone else for her problems, that's on her. I'm not going to enable that kind of behavior. As for my ex-wife and Greg, I don't know what's going to happen there. It sounds like their relationship with Anna is falling apart, and, honestly, I'm not surprised. They created this mess, and now they're stuck dealing with the consequences. I just hope that someday, Anna learns from all of this and becomes a better person. Only time will tell.